Good evening, everyone. Welcome to LFC Transfer Room. I'm here tonight, joined by Dan, Tom, and Paul to discuss the latest news around Liverpool Football Club. Now, it's been another disappointing weekend for Liverpool. It's been the norm in these past few weeks now, but top four is done. The league is
Not
also
yet.
done in a way. So, yeah,
Not yet.
not yet. Well, it's almost
Almost.
done. The league
A
is also
27 points, a 27 goal swing. So, yeah, a hell of a couple of weeks coming up.
yeah.
Unlikely, but possible.
First, have a job to do then. We'll be discussing Slot, as you've seen in the title. We'll be discussing the incident between Klopp and Mo Salah on Saturday, and then we're going to get into signings as well. Thank you everyone who hopped on. Thank you everyone who liked, subscribed to the channel, and we are going to get into the topics for tonight. Now, I know Dan is a very, very big fan of our next head coach, so I'm going to ask him first. Dan, your thoughts on Arne Slot, who, from what we've seen from Fabrizio Romano, is almost a done deal now.
Yes. Let's just say earlier last week, I wasn't as overly infused as I might well be today. I'm going to be behind this manager. I've done quite a bit of research now, and I'm quite impressed with what he has done. I think he did a brilliant job at AZ Alkmaar, reading as to how he turned the fortunes around from being a very leaky team to a team that conceded very little, something that Liverpool need to learn from, and I'm looking forward to being a team that's more in control. I was impressed by the way that he came into Feyenoord and was able to disrupt that league with your Ajax and your PSV, who've basically got it wrapped up, and he was capable of winning that league. And this season wasn't just quite what they wanted, but that's okay because they were very much punching people with the weight. My only concern with Arne Slot is the fact that coming from the 7th tier of European football isn't exactly where I think that the club wanted to be shopping when it came to manager. I think Alonso was who we wanted initially. Alonso didn't want to leave. Ruben Amorim was clearly someone who was ahead of Arne Slot, whether we want to believe it or not, because the reports are already saying is the fact that because he wouldn't change from his philosophy of playing free at the back, they decided to carry on with a different manager like Arne Slot, who will be able to slot in, pun definitely much intended, much better. I've been building up to that one for my whole one, so I appreciate I could get that in there. Mihai, take it from here before I get thrown out and I'll get me coat.
All right. Thanks for the pun then, and for the opinion as well. Paul, it was Xabi Alonso, it was Ruben Amorim, and now we seem to have settled on Arne Slot as our next head coach. So are you impressed with that appointment? What are your expectations from next season, really? And do you think it's better for him that he's going to be a head coach and not a manager?
Absolutely. Someone like him with his limited experience at the top level, it would be too much of an ask to ask him to just slide in to Jurgen Klopp's spot and be the manager of LFC. He needs to come in and just be the coach. Obviously, I didn't know too much about Slot, until the last couple of weeks. I looked at him a year ago when he was rumored to go to Tottenham, but not in any great detail. As to the appointment, I really didn't want any of those recycled older guys. I didn't want any Mourinho or wasn't really a big fan of Tuchel. I want somebody new and fresh. I want somebody to come in with brand new, fresh ideas. And right now, I'm fairly comfortable with the appointment. Yes, I also wanted Xabi Alonso, but I just saw an interesting article on ESPN this morning speaking about why Amorim was passed over by Liverpool. And the article mentioned his inflexibility, history at the back, stuff like that. But it get me thinking, because everything they said in that article, I think, would be applicable to Xabi Alonso as well. And I guess what it was saying too is that Liverpool, all our teams, from the first team to the academy to the under 19s, everybody seemed to play the same style of football. So that is why it's so easy to integrate players, as they step up the ladder. So it seems to me like moving away from Amorim might be the right thing to do, even though I really wanted him. But as I said many times, the guys in the leadership at Liverpool, Michael Edwards, I trust those guys. So if we trust them, then we have to give them the opportunity to succeed and to go with what they think is best. Because to be fair, Klopp has been a fantastic manager, but he has proven that he's not necessarily the best when it comes on to recruitment. And for those of us who are NFL fans, we might have heard of Bill Belichick, who's probably rated as the best coach of all time, not just football coach, but he was lousy at recruiting. So I am kind of happy that Slot is just coming to manage the squad and won't be too involved in anything else. So let's give him a chance and just hope for the best.
Yeah, I think that's the sentiment on and I'm hoping that's the sentiment on pretty much everyone in the fan base. We obviously have to back the manager now, or the head coach, sorry, no matter what. We'll see. Obviously, I think all of us wanted Xabi Alonso at the beginning of the year when rumors started to go around, but in the end, I think it is going to be interesting how Slot does, because in my opinion, Amorim himself would have been a gamble anyways, coming from the Portuguese league in a way. So now with Slot, we've taken another pretty big gamble, but it's on Edwards, and I feel pretty confident as well when I think about it in that sense. So Tom, your thoughts on Arne Slot, on his appointment, and what do you expect from us next season?
Yeah, I mean, initially I was far from enthused, I've got to be honest. You're going from Jurgen Klopp to someone you'd never heard of, really. Arne Slot, baldy head, you just think, oh. But but you know what? Since I've sort of looked into him a bit and seen his philosophy, seen like his character, I'm quite enthused by him. To be fair, I think he looks like he's got the character to be a Liverpool manager. Like when you look at him, when he's facing the media, he seems to have that strong character about him, which obviously you need when you're under such scrutiny as such a big club. In comparison to Ten Hag, for example, I think the media really go for him because he doesn't have the answers to sort of stand. Yeah, whereas Arne Slot, he does look like he's got that backbone about him. He knows how to tackle the media, and that's absolutely massive when you're the manager of Liverpool Football Club. Also saw like a little video of him as well, like when they won the league, singing with all the fans and stuff, which is, again, obviously you want the coaching side as the priority, but that personality and that sort of person that you can sort of connect to is also massive for a club like us, like a very emotional club. And if you got that character about you, I think the fans will sort of give you more time as well, because they got something they can sort of relate to. So yeah, overall I'm happy with him. I think his philosophy, it's not the same as Klopp, but there are some similarities, which I think is quite important as well. When you're having such a big change, it is quite important to have some continuity as well. And I think because his philosophy does have some similarities, you can sort of provide that continuity, which Amorim, for example, wouldn't, because goes to a three at the back is just a completely different ball game altogether. So yeah, I'm after having a proper look at him, doing a bit of research, I'm quite excited by the appointment, and I think, like I said, his character as well could be massive in terms of helping him, especially in the early stages.
It seems like it's going to be an interesting or an exciting brand of football as well. Arne Slot seems to play in pretty much the Liverpool way, with what we've been used to since or maybe for the last 10 years, something like that. So yeah, it is going to be interesting to watch him next season. Please make sure to like, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and we are now going to take a few comments from the comment section. One comment that I've seen here is actually mentioning something that Dan and I were discussing right before going live. So it's about Edwards, Hughes, their signings, and Arne Slot's role in these, in the sense that he doesn't really have a role in it. His only role will be to integrate them into what he is trying to be doing. So I'm not entirely. I don't entirely agree with that point, in the sense that it's all on Edwards and on Hughes, because I think it's more of a team effort, in the sense that you'd need the head coach to integrate the players the way you want them to, so that they would actually work in the system. So it's not all on Edwards and Hughes, but I'm going to let Dan have his say as well on the topic.
Yeah, so I just want to kind of get my position straight, because people are going to see me all of next season, pre-season. They're going to see me with their point, and I want to just get it straight from the start. Arne Slot's not going to be signing the players. That's a fact. There's there's two people who are going to be signing the players. It's Michael Edwards and Hughes. Arne Slot and his team will have an input. They will have an input, but that is as far as it will go. The players will be provided to him. And he's done this before at Feyenoord, actually, which I quite appreciated, that he's quite willing to accept that he is not, he knows that he isn't capable of having the talent ID to be able to go out there and identify players as well as, say, other people are. And we've got some of the best people in the business when it comes to finding those players. The list goes on and on and on and on with who we found at prices for next to nothing. Andy Robertson, Joel Matip, for God's sakes, was a free. You know, those signings all come from our data analysis. They weren't from Klopp or Rodgers or anybody else. But it's just so that when these players do come into the team, and Arne Slot will need to be supported and backed by Edwards and Hughes and FSG or whoever else you want to put in there, to be given the tools to be able to do his job. It wouldn't be fair if he goes into next season and he doesn't have the right players to be able to implement what we need to implement. At Feyenoord, like you already said, they are relatively quite similar to how we play statistically. However, they're more technical. They're more a team akin to wanting to pass the ball more often. A few of our players will have difficulty. I think Endo, we won't see an awful lot. I think he'll play games, but I just don't think he has the technical ability to be able to do it across 38 games, or even, to be honest with you, even has the legs to do it. Because if we do play a 4-2-3-1 formation, which is something that Arne Slot has done, he's going to have far too much space to be able to try and cover. So I'm not convinced that Endo is going to be a long-term first choice player in the team. It's just, for me, it's just I don't want anyone to sit there and blame Arne Slot if, for example, a player comes in and he's not very good. Because for me, I don't think that's not going to be him. So I'm trying to, as much as I may not be infused by him and I have my reservations, I'm also want to protect him, because ultimately it won't be his thing. You know, when they're saying, do you think Slot will get this player? Like, that's an old mindset. That's not here at Liverpool. He's not doing that. And I just want to make it clear, and I'm clear from where I'm saying, is that if we bring in players and they don't meet our standards, that's not going to be his fault. But I'll also will be praising Hughes and Edwards when they do land, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to be consistent with saying that. But yeah, I am open to what's going to happen. I'm excited, like you said. Now I've actually grown to kind of feel like, well, this is what it's going to be. I'm trying to focus on all of the good things that have come from his management style, and if we can be more defensively minded and still score the goals, then we should be on for a really good season next year. And my expectations are quite high. I wouldn't expect any manager to come in and win the league. That'd be great. That'd be absolutely exceptional. But I won't accept us falling into a top four fight. We are not Spurs and we're not Villa. Like, we should be, if we're in top four, comfortably in top four. Like, with a distance. That's where I am. Maybe other people have other opinions, but Jurgen Klopp has just spent 9 years near enough turning us from doubters to believers. And if it's taken a month for us to go from believers back into doubters, then I don't know what he's just spent the last 9 years doing.
Well, hopefully we're going to have a lot of praising to do next season to both Slot and Edwards. So we're going to have to see what happens. Another thing that I've seen in the chat is this from Alan. Good to see you, mate. Thank you for coming on. Paul, I'm going to ask you this question. Alan is asking us if we're worried about Arne Slot not having the name to attract big players. Now, for me personally, that's not a concern, mainly because we are Liverpool Football Club, so we shouldn't really have any trouble in attracting big players, no matter who manages us or who's the head coach or something like that. So I'm going to be asking you the same question. Do you think that's going to be a problem in us making transfers in the near future?
Absolutely not. We are Liverpool Football Club, as you said, and the only team that I think worldwide that we should be scared about if we are going for the same player is Real Madrid and possibly Barcelona if it's a Spanish-based player. Other than that, we are Liverpool Football Club. And Manchester United might compete with us for players just because they offer twice the salary that we offer in most cases. But even if I was the coach of Liverpool, I don't think that would affect us getting top players. So I have no concerns about that because the club is bigger than the individual. So no concerns at all.
All right. And one other question I have for Tom is this one. Now, do you think we've compromised, or Edwards or Hughes or the transfer committee who was in charge of the appointment, do you think we've compromised on this particular appointment? Do you think that Slot was maybe brought in mainly because he's not a high-profile coach and he won't necessarily have the same expectations, transfer-wise from the board?
Well, it certainly wouldn't be the first time that FSG have gone for a cheap option, but I do think in this case it's not the case. I think when you looked at the candidates available, we were all a bit worried. There was a lack of sort of big names out there really that were suitable for the job. Obviously, we all wanted Alonso ideally, but once that was out the window, then I think Arne Slot is about the best that you could have got, really. And obviously, we're paying 10, 11 million to get him compensation, so he's not exactly, cheap, really. So, yeah, I think, like I said, FSG, I have many reservations about them, but I think in this instance when Alonso's gone, I think, to be honest, Arne Slot was probably, all things considered, arguably the best option in terms of, like I said before, the philosophy, the personality. He's kind of got youth on his side for a manager. So, yeah, I wouldn't say they've gone for the cheap option in that instance.
But if I may just say something, Mihai.
Sure.
When I always say to people when they said, this is the wrong guy, you must follow up by saying who you think would have been better. So that's my question. Who would have been better? I know, I believe that Jose Mourinho was looking the job because he turned up at Liverpool games, just sat in the stands. And I don't know him as a Liverpool supporter. So obviously he was hoping that, he could get a call. Or since you're here, you want to come and chat with us? So other than, and of course, I don't want him. I don't think any of you guys would want him either. So who else was out there? Carlo Ancelotti not coming. Pep Guardiola not coming. I don't want Thomas Tuchel. Who else was out there? If you look for somebody to replace Klopp, this guy that's going to Bayern Munich now, what is it, Ralph Ragnick or whatever his name? He has the same style that Klopp played for the last couple of years. But none of us would want that guy. So if not Arnie, then who? That's my question.
There's a 14-year-old me back in 2004 who really wanted Jose Mourinho. And in my heart, there was an idea that if we were going to have a terrible season, I wanted it to be Hollywood all the way through. I wanted blockbuster. I wanted memes. I wanted clips. I wanted a whole documentary just to be made about Jose finally getting his dream of managing Liverpool, because he would have loved it. I think he'd have done it for free. To be honest, I think he'd have come and managed us for free because he needed that. He's always wanted to manage us. No, he wouldn't be very good because everywhere that Jose Mourinho goes, it becomes a bin fire. And, he is always the common denominator. Thomas Tuchel's no different. Thomas Tuchel has been quoted as being one of the best football coaches that there is around. The problem is he falls out with absolutely everybody. Like, everywhere he goes, Dortmund fell out with everyone. Mainz fell out with everyone. Look at him here. He's arguing with the sporting director at Bayern Munich. Like, he's just not the attitude that we need. As a football coach, brilliant. But as a person, he's just, he's a nightmare. He's an absolute nightmare.
Is he brilliant as a football coach now in 2024, though? I think his style is a little bit old.
Tuchel, I mean, this is only going off what the people who have said it. Thomas Tuchel is still down as one of these. I mean, look at it this way. Look what he did against Arsenal. Arsenal have been incredibly dominant. Let's get it straight. Exceptionally dominant football team, and he just schooled them. He schooled Arsenal over two legs. He is a football coach through and through. And this season, he has probably fallen foul to Xabi Alonso having, a once in a lifetime season. We'll probably never see this type of season ever again. The Leverkusen invincible season. It's unbelievable. But on another season, Tuchel wins the league comfortably, and the conversation is very different.
I think Tuchel would have been not the best option, mainly because it would have been a short-term one. I feel like, he's the type of manager that I feel like, in my mind at least, I feel like when I think about him, I just think about Conte as well as the same type of manager who comes in, gets you a few trophies, 2-3 years, and then leaves. And then you kind of have to, rebuild the squad because they get all these weird players. Like you remember with Conte at Chelsea, he won them the league, but then some of the players he left behind were just odd. And then it's kind of the same with Tuchel.
You're telling me you don't want to see Nemanja Matic at Liverpool, Mihai, under Jose Fellaini?
Would have been interesting indeed, and that's the only reason why I would have liked Jose at Liverpool. Would have been for the memes, but it would have been at our expense. But it would have been a fun season. So we're gonna think about it like that. So I think we can now move on from the manager head coach topic, and discuss something that's happened on Saturday, right before Mo Salah was subbed on for Liverpool. Now I've seen that, and I thought. I think we all have strong opinions on the topic, or at least I like to believe from what I've seen online. But I'm gonna ask you, lads, in a moment as well. Me personally, when I saw that, I was just extremely disappointed and right out angry with Mo Salah, to be honest. Mainly because it hasn't been the best. These past 2 weeks weren't really the best. We were already in a bad mood, so Me personally, I cannot stand seeing a player disrespect a manager, especially in front of his teammates and fans as well. In a public way. So, for me, I was fairly angry with Mo Salah. Now I've calmed down, obviously, for the past few days, but I've seen this incident being discussed a lot online, and people taking sides and people saying we shouldn't take sides and stuff like that. In my opinion, I cannot tolerate a player disrespecting a manager. Now, was that disrespect? Was it not? Then I'm going to ask you your thoughts on what happened. Is that something that's going to be an issue now going forward? Because I'm not sure.
Well, I think one of them's got to leave at the end of the season, haven't they? After what's happened. So I'm not sure it's going to be. I mean, all jokes aside, to be honest with you, I mean, we've seen it before, haven't we? You know, Klopp and Henderson have had arguments. There's been multiple occasions where they've had these little sideline tiffs, and in professional sport, when the pressure's on and people have got big egos, because you know some of them have got every right to have a big ego, and you know Salah's was probably hurt. He was dropped for that game. He was dropped for the West Ham match. There was no resting or anything about it. It was no tactical reason. He was dropped because of the way he performed midweek, and it hurt him. And he clearly reacted in a way that wasn't, you know, rightfully professional, and it doesn't look good. He didn't need to say his comments afterwards in the press area when he was walking through, and I think maybe they've been lost in translation when they asked, "Do you have any comments?" and he said, "If I speak now, there will be fire." I think there's a translation loss there, and I'll lean on the side that he's saying that if I say something, you'll turn it into something that it's not. And it probably is a nothingness. And I'll believe what the boss has got to say when he said he spoke in the dressing room and it's been dealt with. And that's probably where it needs to stay. The issue will be if it rolls on to next weekend. That's where this would go from being an argument between co-workers. I'm sure those of you watching at home and myself and everyone has had some crosswords with somebody they work with when they're under pressure, when they're under stress, and you just deal with it. And I'll treat it as that until next week, and then we'll see what the drama unfolds. If there's nothing, it's dealt with. If there's a big raring row on the sideline and he's been dropped again, maybe there's a bit more to it. So we'll wait and see. I just don't think it's as big of a deal as maybe it's tried to be made out to be.
I disagree.
Okay. I didn't even have to ask you.
You see, professional players need to act professionally, especially when the cameras are on, when you are on the sidelines and the world is watching. Klopp has done so much for this club over the last 9 years to be disrespected. I understand Salah being upset, whether, you know, because he's been left out or whatever the issue is. But that's not the way you deal with it. I'm sure if you go bang down the manager's door, close it, and you shout at him in his office, I'm sure he would probably be happy, because then he would know that you still have the passion, the desire, you still want to go out there and perform, you know. But to try and disrespect the manager in public, come on, guys, we're not Manchester United. We're Liverpool Football Club. We don't do those kind of stuff. And not because you are Mo Salah, which is one of our greatest players ever. You know, the fact that you are Mo Salah should even be more reason why this should not happen. Because to whom much is given, much is expected. We don't expect our top players to behave like that. They need to set the example, right? Now, as it relates to the fire comment, I really don't know what to think. Probably that's nothing, because when I saw the comment online, I thought he said it in English. But then because it's been translated, it could probably mean something far less sinister than what we think. So I'm not too concerned about that fire comment, but his actions, you know, it was disgusting. And I think the least he can do is to come out and make a public apology, right? He owes it to the fans, he owes it to the world, it owes it to Klopp to come out and say, you know what, I wish I'd acted a little bit differently, and it won't happen again. But, you know, I don't want the guy to leave, but I am really disappointed in his behavior.
I think that was pretty close to what I felt when I saw that as well. I felt like I really wish he'd come out and just apologize publicly, because of, you know, his reaction was also public. So that was something we had to see. Yeah, I know. We've seen a lot of comments now about this being blown out of proportion. Now I've seen that online as well. Seen obviously people here in the comments saying the same thing. I think what's the most surprising is seeing a player like Mo Salah do this, mainly because we've known him as this religiously disciplined guy who was never out of line, who never made a comment like that, who was, maybe a bit not necessarily keen on passing the ball, maybe a few years back. But outside of that, we haven't really seen him create any sort of problem. So maybe that was, all that more surprising. So Tom, I was going to say two different opinions here, but I also took Jurgen's side, I feel, on this one. So is this being blown out of proportion? Are we right to be upset with Mo Salah?
Yeah, 100%. I think he was bang out of, echo what Paul said, I think he was bang out of order. Not only did you not, speak to your manager like that, you certainly don't do it in public. I think it was just, he's let the club down badly, to be honest. And he didn't deserve to play. We know he's got a massive ego, and that ego's been hurt, and that's why he's reacted in the way that he has. But it's still absolutely no excuse for when you got that badge on your chest to act in that way. It was just bang out of line, especially for a manager that, Salah's made his own success, but Klopp has been a massive part of, helping him to become one of the best players in the world. And to disrespect him in the public domain like that, I thought was absolutely disgusting from him, to be honest. And even the fire comment, like, I've seen it. He did say, if I speak today, there'll be fire. He's got sort of laughing saying it, but again, I thought that was bang out of order because what the media are going to be all over that now. The club's already having a hard time, and you're just adding fuel to the fire. Like, no matter even if you didn't mean it, really, like, there's just absolutely no need to make a comment like that. And like I said, to get the club in the headlines for the wrong reasons, even more so. Yeah, I think he was bang out of order. I think he should have made a public apology, and we could have all, moved on. He hasn't done that because we know, as I said, he's got a massive ego, a bit too big at times. But saying that, I'd still keep hold of him because at the end of the day, he's our best player. He guarantees you 25, 30 goals every single season, which, how many other players in world football can you say that about? Count them on one hand, probably. So I think we've got to keep him, but at the same time, he's really got to, face some disciplinary action for that, in my opinion, because it's just, you can't tolerate actions like that, especially at a club like Liverpool.
And if I may come in again, Mihai,
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen for our next game. If Salah remains silent, hasn't apologized. And when I say apologize, I mean publicly. I don't want us to hear that it's dealt with in the dressing room, and that's that. If we had heard that something happened, then just to hear that it's dealt with in the dressing room, that's fine. But the fact that it happened publicly in front of the world, then if there's an apology, I think it needs to be public. So if it's not public, then I take it that there's no apology. So it's going to be interesting to see if he starts the next game, if he says nothing. And this is where we need our leaders like our captain Van Dijk to come out and say something too, and to encourage Salah to, Klopp is leaving in 3 or 4 more games. We really don't want the Gaffer's 9-year tenure to be spoiled like this. So even if you're not sincere, just come out and just say something so we can just move on. But I'm really, really sad by this event. I love both of these guys, and it's just not right.
What's interesting about this whole conversation now is something that I forgot to mention is we've seen today, or maybe we haven't, some of you haven't, David Ornstein basically put out an article about how Michael Edwards is still backing Mo Salah and is ready to give him another contract. So I was honestly slightly surprised with that, mainly because after what happened on Saturday and having the Hendo and Milner conversations in the back of my mind, I thought that Edwards wouldn't necessarily give a player who's nearing 32 now another big contract at that. So on Saturday when I saw that, when I saw the incident, I thought that that's it. Probably Salah is going to be leaving this summer, because that's, I just felt that it was a bit too much. But now we have this news with Edwards backing him still. So if we get another big offer in the summer, then do you think, should we keep him, or we are now at a point where he's nearing 32 and those kind of offers won't keep on coming?
Okay, so let's unpack it. Let's forget the last couple of weeks have happened, and let's go back to before all of this stuff had occurred. No one would have batted an eyelid at Mo Salah, mate, having an extension and being upset at that situation having happened. Only two. I've said this from every stream when we talked about the same situation. Only two things can happen by June. Either Mo Salah is being sold to whoever offers the highest amount of money, whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's wherever, it doesn't really matter. What can't happen is he leaves on a free. That just does not happen. He does not do one more year without extending his contract. Now, based on the performances before what we've had recently, he's had his first ever major injury, which is to do with his body. He's had the shoulder injury, which is the only other reason he's ever been out of any form of real football match. Who knows what that's done to him, whether it's done to his confidence, what it's done to the way he's feeling, or whether he's even fully fit as it stands right now. I'm happy for him to stay for another year. So that would be a 2-year contract this next year and the year after to secure his money, to secure the value. I don't believe we should be paying him any more money. I'd be very much happy with him having the same deal that we have as it stands right now. Michael Edwards is probably not so much about age. He's probably so much more about output and what he believes that they're capable of doing. And I have said, and I still believe, that Mo Salah would be capable of playing at the top level for at least another 3 years. I don't think he is ready to be sent to Saudi on his retirement journey. I just think a man who has kept himself as fit as he has all of his life and has looked after himself the way that he's looked after himself and the physical condition that he's in, I can't see a world where he's now decided, right, I'm going to go and play against literally a bunch of farmers in the Saudi league and no one will care about me. No one will care about what I do. So I'm not surprised that this has come out. I'm a little bit surprised that when it came out, like you say, it might well be a little bit of a PR spin. I think someone's put that in the chat there, which is a really good opinion, that it could have been just to put a bit of a positive spin on Mo Salah, perhaps. However, it doesn't shock me that this is something that is being considered. But what has to happen is he either signs a deal or he's sold. Those are the only two things that can happen this summer, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think what makes this extremely interesting now is the fact that, indeed, if you forget, let's say you take the last two months out of the situation, then you kind of think about Salah being en route for a Player of the Season season again. So Player of the Season award again. So he was massive for us. Now it's been, his drop in form was pretty, started to come into play at the same time as entire squads. So he is obviously an important part of the squad going forward. Now, I do agree with you, to be honest. I think he still has 2-3 years in him. So I am very much conflicted about it, so I'm gonna leave it at that. But if we've discussed outgoings, we are also going to discuss transfers, and by transfers I mean we have been linked for a few days, weeks now with Feyenoord's right center back Geertruida, who is. I've seen something online. I've seen an account with his name post a Snapchat from the West Ham game. So I don't know if that's the legit account or not. I don't really know much about him outside of the fact that he's a young right center back, and he's a pretty promising player now. I've thought about it. I think that at the beginning of last season, I thought of this season. Sorry, I thought we definitely need a center back. But now with Gerald Kwanzaa's amazing season that we didn't really expect. Now I'm not so sure anymore. I feel like with Konate, Van Dijk, with Kwanzaa and Joe Gomez as well, I think we have a lot of options in the back line. But I'm going to ask you guys the same question. Tom, I'm going to start off with you. Do you think Geertruida would be a good addition for us? Do you think we need a center back for next season?
Yeah, I think he'd be a good addition. I mean, he's got age on his side. He's got versatility on his side, which is massive to be able to cover multiple positions. Obviously, the new manager knows him really well, so there's a lot going for him. But I don't really think that's the position we particularly need. To be honest, I think in the defence you're probably looking at a left centre back if anything. Because you got Ibra, you got Kwanzaa there, you got Gomez who can cover right centre back. So I don't really think right back / right centre back is a priority by any means. Like I said, that left-footed centre back is sort of something we are missing a little bit. I think most other top teams do have that balance of a left-footed centre back. It does help a lot in the build-up. To be fair, when you look at you got Gabriel at Arsenal, you got Gvardiol at City, you got the likes of Botman at Newcastle, Lissandro, Man United. Most teams do have that sort of balance, so that is a hole in the squad. So yeah, I think in the defensive side, that is someone I would look at. Someone like an Inacio, someone like that. But yeah, the Geertruida wouldn't be a bad addition. I just don't think he's particularly something that we particularly need really this summer.
Now I know, Paul, you are a pretty big fan of Joe Gomez. At the beginning of the season, I said we need to get rid. So that was my opinion on him. Obviously, in the meantime, I think I've been a bit too harsh because he's been actually decent for us this season, wasn't he? So, do you think we still need a center back, and do you think Geertruida is the guy to play that position for us?
Well, Joe Gomez is a classic bench player, but a necessary bench player. Every team needs a couple of players who are versatile, who are not necessarily in your best 11, but who can come in and cover multiple spots. So, and then the fact that Joe Gomez, his salary is not that heavy, and he's a homegrown player, I would not be in a rush to sell him. That doesn't mean that if the right offer come in, I wouldn't listen to it, but I would still keep him. I think 100% we will be getting a couple of centre backs, and we have to have a left-footed centre back. So that goes without saying, because Matip is going. Verge still has a couple more years left in him, but you would want to reduce his workload as you go along. Especially with all of these cup competitions and so on that we have each year. So, and Konate is not the most reliable when it comes on to his fitness. So that just leaves us with just Kwanzaa, who's still a very young man. So we need a left-footed centre back. Now, as to this, what's his name? Geertruida, whatever his name is, if my pronunciation is wrong. If he is a centre back that can play right back, that's a lot different than if it's a right back that plays a little bit of centre back. So centre back is more important. We are not necessarily looking for a right back or right back cover, because we have Trent, and of course we have Conor Bradley, and of course we have Joe Gomez. So if he's primarily a centre back and we're looking to sign him as a centre back, then I'm all for it. But if it's this right back, centre back hybrid, then we have more important, more pressing needs elsewhere on the pitch. So, and the fact that the manager played with him in Feyenoord, to me, that really doesn't really matter. It's just kind of lazy just to say, okay, I know this guy, so I'm going to take him with me, because the talent at Liverpool is different from the talent at Feyenoord, and there's nothing to say that he's going to come to Liverpool and command a spot in the team and does well. So I am not too excited about him. The fact that he was in the stands, I mean, so what? he wants to come. That doesn't mean that he is the right quality of what we need. So I really don't. It doesn't really bother me either way. If he was left-footed, then I would all over it. But yes, but he's not really that high on my priority list at all.
All right. So the same question for I'm gonna ask Dan the same question, but I'm also going to add this comment from Tanya. So thank you for remembering me about Somerville, who's also been linked with Liverpool. We've seen some reports saying that Slot is apparently extremely is a pretty big fan of Somerville. Now, me personally, I've always thought of Somerville.
I'm not high on him.
So whenever I thought about Somerville, I thought that's mainly a squad player for a decent Premier League side.
Is Fabio Carvalho 2.0?
Okay, so let's not. That's really complicated now, so I'm not really sure how to answer that. So then I'm going to ask you pretty much the same question on Geertruida and on Somerville as well.
Okay, so Geertruida, right-sided, right-back, right-footed. We're not going to sign a player from Feyenoord just because we've signed their manager. That's for a start. That's the first thing. That it's just dead lazy. The only club who does that is Manchester United, and see how that's done for them. I don't think the chances of the laptop identifying the Feyenoord manager as our next manager, and then the laptop identifying our next signing also being from the same club, are so very, very minute. It's just so unlikely. What I'm just looking at here, one thing he does have, and this is something which is well, probably the best ability, is availability. He hasn't missed a minute of football for Feyenoord. He seems to play absolutely all the time for them. He scored 6 goals, which is 6 goals more than Joe Gomez, and has 4 assists. I've got no Gomez. Sorry, I just had to get it out there. I had to just put it out there. I just don't really see the reasons to what we would need him for. Like, we already have Conor Bradley. We already have Joe Gomez. So there's the right back covered if we're playing 4 at the back. I'm of the belief that Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to become an 8 or, further forward. I think that's where Trent will play. I think that's going to be absolutely key for Trent to sign a new deal. He clearly does not want to be a defender anymore. And why would you want someone who has the forward ability like Trent, not further forward, doing what he's really good at, which is creating chances? So I'm of the opinion that as much as I think he's a good player, I think he would definitely fit in somewhere at our club and probably somewhere in the Premier League. I'm just not overly convinced that it's someone we need right now. We do absolutely need another centre-back, though. I'm almost certain of that. And I say that because we're losing Joel Matip. I believe Joel Matip will be leaving the club. It seems that he's going to get offers, which is brilliant for him. I was a bit concerned that maybe the injury is going to lead him to not have the option to find somewhere else to go. So that's great. But Konate, I am more and more leaning towards whether or not he is the future of our right centre-back. Maybe it's just a bit of a recency situation, but Jarell Kwanzaa has come in this season, has been capable of doing what Ibrahima Konate has done within one season. And I'm just a little bit worried that Konate is not developing at the rate that maybe we all expected. And also his injuries are absolutely killing us. We can't keep a player like Konate in the team if he's never available for us to play. And that's not what we need. We've been there and done that with other players. We've seen Thiago, the man who doesn't exist. We've seen Naby Keita. We've seen even Sheridan Shaqiri for a small period of time. But Ibrahim Konate really needs to sort out whatever his issues are. And if these issues persist, perhaps we need to look at a new option. So I think we do need another right centre-back, to be honest, to replace Joel Matip and perhaps to replace Konate. So yeah, Somerville.
But Dan, before you go on to Somerville, is he primarily a centre back or a right back?
Who's this? Geertruida.
Geertruida, yeah.
Yeah, well, from what it looks like here, he plays a lot more. And is the biggest circle here is his right back, is his position. However, he can play across the back, except for the left because he is right-footed. So I'm not overly convinced that he would be something. He'd be another utility player if you get me. I think we already have enough players at right back to cover those situations with Joe Gomez and with Connor Bradley. He's making his breakthrough season. I was like you actually about Joe Gomez last season when it came to selling him. I was of the opinion that if someone came in and made an offer for him, I wasn't against us selling him. However, having seen what he's done for us this year and the way that he's played and the fact that he costs us absolutely nothing, the offer to get him out of the club for me would have to be really high. I just think he offers more for us than perhaps the money that we could generate for him would do. If that sort of answers the question on that one. Somerville, though, on the other hand, very interesting. I mean, he looks brilliant, doesn't he? But a lot of players look great, don't they, in the Championship, because it's a very different standard of football. And I hold this energy as well for players coming from leagues across Europe. Cody Gakpo was banging in numbers ridiculous in the Eredivisie. However, they've not followed him. And certain players like a certain Anthony over at Manchester United wasn't very good in that league. And lo and behold, he's also not very good here when things get harder. So my concern would be for Somerville, he would be very, very expensive. Like, I don't know what number he would be, but I probably think it's going to start with a 6, perhaps more, because Leeds would look at that and go, this is our opportunity to make a lot of money out of a big club. And my worry would be is to just perhaps he's a little bit too young to be kind of paying that kind of money, and the expectation that would come with his price tag would probably outweigh maybe what he could deliver. But then again, I could be completely wrong. He could be incredible, even in the Premier League.
But with where would he play? You know, would he play ahead? Would he start ahead of the 8s that we have right now? Is he a number 10? We don't play with a number 10. You know, where would he play?
Well, one thing we don't lack here at Liverpool as midfielders now is something that we used to lack an awful lot of. We have an awful lot of them. So signing midfielders is probably less likely than any other position that we have to buy. I think Fabrizio Romano's words of saying that Liverpool are actively looking for a centre-back doesn't shock me and doesn't surprise me. I think that's probably where we do need to strengthen more. It will depend on who leaves the club. Luis Diaz has been making noises, or his dad's been making noises about wanting to go to Barcelona. Now, it just depends if Barcelona, A, have any money to spend, and B, how much he's willing to take a pay cut for, because for some reason Barcelona is able to get people to work for free for them. And that could well be the case. It would happen with Diaz. I'm not opposed to selling Diaz. I think Diaz is great, but I also think Diaz is the one who could be replaced the easiest. I think there's lots of right-footed left wingers who we would be able to replace the numbers that he's put into this team, if that makes sense. So I don't know where Somerville would fit. I think players of his age come with massive price tags, and unless they're coming straight into your first team, well, what's the point? Do we just become like a Chelsea and sign like Lavia for 50 million and then never play him?
Right, because Gravenberch seems to be, needs the opportunity to see if he can take the next step. So if we're going to go to Leeds for a player, Archie Gray seems to be the player that we should be going for, but then it's going to cost 100 million, so that's a no-go. So I don't know.
Yeah, go there.
Yes, I know. It is really difficult, isn't it? Because, I mean, you're looking here, his numbers are brilliant, aren't they? 42 games, 19 goals, 9 assists. Gets a yellow card, so there's something about him, which is, there's not always a bad thing. 2 got, goal and assist in the FA Cup. He's got the numbers. The numbers are there for him. He can play left wing. He can play right wing. My worry is just it's the value. It will just be how much would Leeds want for him. If Leeds wanted, I don't know, I'll throw a number out there, £50 million, for example. Perhaps that isn't as big of a risk. But when they're probably going to come at Liverpool, like Wolves would come with Pedro Neto and say, 80 million quid, just because they seem to make up the numbers when it comes to their players. That's my worry. But if the price was right, absolutely. 100%. I'd be well for it. There you go. Tony 777, 45 million. Yeah. Like that for me would be like, okay, where's the risk? We get him on a 5-year deal. His wages wouldn't probably be very high. If he works out, brilliant. It's a masterstroke. If it doesn't work out, we're probably going to be able to get the best value for him anyway in a couple of years' time. So it just depends on how much he would be.
I don't know. He just strikes me as a Fabio Carvalho, similar type of player, similar type of profile, who just get lost in our squad. Pedro Neto will be overpriced because it's he's a left-footed winger, and there aren't many of those around. It's just a supply-demand situation for left-footed wingers, right wingers. But I'm not too excited about Somerville, but I don't know.
I mean, he's got the same agents as Geertruida, so maybe we could put the fee into one, and then we'll be able to get him in. Perhaps I've just noticed here he's got the same agent. He's as I say. I mean, it's right, but it's like anything. It's like whenever you approach these clubs. I think the last time Liverpool got a bargain out of somebody was probably Diogo Jota. But they didn't know what they had on their hands. They were like, oh, thank God he's gone. Oh, 40 million quid or whatever we paid for him. And it's just turned out to be, an absolute finishing machine. And it worked out as great business. But somebody everybody knows about, Leeds will just be like, 70 million quid, and they'll just throw it out there. They'll just make a number up. Where with Fabio Carvalho, I mean, what did he cost? 2 packs of Maltesers and a Snickers. It really wasn't that much in the grand scheme of things. And he's gone away to Hull and he's putting up mega numbers. And, perhaps there was a bit of a falling out. Maybe him and Klopp didn't quite get on. Maybe there's something there. But he's going to be one of the people who, when he comes back in June, has a fresh start and a new opportunity to be able to say, I'm good enough to be here. So we'll see.
Not a lot of excitement indeed about any of the players that we've been linked with, but there's obviously a long summer ahead. One other thing that I wanted to answer from the chat is this comment regarding a left back. I was actually, I think all of us, we were discussing on the group chat that we are going to need to think about signing a left back, especially in the coming years. Now, we don't really know, how much more Robo can go, especially as playing for Liverpool is a pretty physical or demanding job for a wide back. Anyways, maybe not so much now with Arne Slot from the summer, but we're gonna have to see obviously what happens with Tsimikas and Joe Gomez, who's been really good for us at left back in these past few months. Is he going to be an option going forward still for the left back position? I think these answers we're probably gonna answer a lot more once we see how exactly Slot wants to set up and what are his expectations for a right back, or a left back even. Okay, now one conversation that you're going to have to bear with me for is the last topic of the evening, and that is Darwin Nunez, who once again has been gaining a lot of attraction. A conversation regarding Darwin Nunez has been gaining a lot of traction online now. And that's about his role for next season. I've seen a lot of people saying that we need to sell Darwin Nunez. I've seen a lot of people saying that Darwin Nunez has been the flop of the season for Liverpool Football Club, which I cannot get behind whatsoever. Now, I know that Darwin Nunez is extremely infuriating, and that he's probably going to make you want to, I don't know, get your hair up. But on his day, and maybe not necessarily on his day, but pretty much every day, the one thing you can fault him for is his commitment, his work rate, and his passion that he has for the club and for doing things. Basically, I think that he's been criticized fairly for his finishing, but at the same time, he's been doing a lot more work for us off the ball. And with that, I mean, if you remember the goal that we've scored, the third one against Fulham, and even the fourth one, to be honest, he was there with the touch right before the assist for the goals. For
Yeah.
example, in situations like that, he's the one player who never gives up on pressing, who obviously gets a lot of energy from the crowd, and he feeds off that. And one thing you cannot deny is that he's been a lot better than he was in his first season for us. So we've seen improvement, maybe not so much in terms of finishing, and I guess that's what we were hoping for. But now, for me, I think left wing is his best position. That obviously creates a conversation with Luis Diaz, who also plays there, with Jota, who can also play there. So then I've been rambling mainly because there are so many things going on in my head that I don't necessarily know on which ones to focus exactly. So maybe you can bring a bit more clarity to this. Do we keep Darwin Nunez? I'm hoping you're not going to say no.
Yeah, we keep him. But in terms of his role, I'm not sure. To be honest, I think he offers a lot. His numbers have been good this year, and I think he's improved massively on last year. He does a lot of good things, but he also, I think, when the timing's the biggest and when you really need him, I feel like he's always going to let you down, in my opinion. I just don't think he's ever going to have that ruthless nature about him. It's not a criticism of him. I just think that he's the type of player who's going to cause chaos. He's going to make the right runs. He's going to create chances by doing that. But I just don't think he's ever going to have that ruthless streak about him, which for a top club that wants to win the biggest titles, you need your strikers to have that ruthless instinct about them. And I just don't think he'll ever have it. So for me, you definitely keep him because he's versatile. He does a lot of good things. He's very good off the bench. So he's a great squad player to have, very, very good squad player. But I just feel like, in my opinion, in terms of starting every game for us, for a team that wants to win the biggest trophies, like I said, I always just think he will let you down when it matters most. So for me, keep, but not as like one of the main players, as more of a rotational player for me.
Yep. So that's why I thought that we definitely don't play him as a 9 going forward, because he's not a 9 really. So off the left wing, I think he's where he shines really. I think we've seen that from him this season. So now I obviously get that he was brought in, and especially with the fee that it's hanging on his head now, he's been brought in to score goals, which was the expectation at the time from him. But I think he can still give us a lot of good things, even if it's not scoring 30 goals per season. So, Paul, I'm going to ask you the same question. Do you think Darwin Nunez has a future at Liverpool? Do you think he can play the striker role, or do you think we just keep him on the left wing? And what does that mean for the club?
It's way too early to give up on Darwin Nunez. And if we decide to part ways, we're not going to recoup much of the money that we spent for him. So it's kind of pointless. I am willing to suggest that maybe a change in management can do wonders for Darwin. At least we have to see if that can happen. As to the position that he plays, I prefer, to say that it's a rotation. It doesn't mean that if you start at number 9, you have to spend the entire 90 minutes at the number 9. He has to learn that you switch. You're at the left wing here. You can be on the right wing depending on what is happening on the pitch. But I think he has a lot to offer. We just have to accept what he is. He is not an Alexander Isak. Isak is a deadly finisher, but outside of that, Darwin offers much more in terms of his build-up play, his work rate, So I think it is what it is. We probably need to just see if we can get him in different situations, get him to help the team, because we're not going to sell him. left wing, right wing, I don't think it really matters. Just tell them to just play football. Sometimes we overcomplicate, all of these positions. But he was another club signing who probably hasn't worked out as we had hoped it would be. Yes, we bought him as a striker to score goals, and it hasn't really happened. But we have to keep him for another year and to see if the new coach, new system, might work. But he is a problem, yes, in terms of his finishing, his output. But we have to just persist and at least try one more year and to see what happens.
Yeah, I think the expectation is that if you're going to expect Darwin Nunez to score, 30, 40 goals this season, that's probably not going to happen. We've seen that, he's still not improved his finishing now, almost 2 years from him since he signed on for the club. So I don't know. Obviously, as you said, I still think it's a bit too early to give up on him, and I still think he can give the club a lot of good things going forward. Now, Dan, I'm going to ask you the same question as I've asked the other two lads. We've seen a lot of Nunez slander online, and we've seen some people in the chat not being convinced about him, which I can absolutely understand. But I feel like he does so much off the ball as well that he just deserves to stay.
What other player do you feel did a lot off the ball and got a lot of praise for it, Mihai?
Me personally, no.
He used to wear the number 9. Roberto Firmino. Roberto Firmino scored never as many goals as Nunez scored this season. And the assist numbers that Nunez has put up are actually up there with Firmino's best numbers. So he's having a Roberto Firmino season. Everyone under Roberto Firmino absolutely loved him to pieces and thought he was incredible. At no point did anyone really come out there and slate the fact that he didn't score a lot of goals, and they all said he linked up the play. However, his assist numbers and his goal numbers were never particularly very high. What Roberto Firmino did have, though, was he had 2 players on either side of him who were capable of scoring goals, and they were the people who was the main focus of our goal threat. I still feel that one side of it is still our main threat with goals. I still think Mo Salah is our focal point. I still think he is a player that when he is in the team and when he's playing forward, he is the person who it's everyone's job to try and give the ball to. And that is the reason why Nunez has as many assists as he does to Mo Salah. I think he actually beat Mane in one season for when it comes to assists. So there's a method to the reason as to why, as to why he was doing what he was doing. I agree with you. Nunez started this season and he wasn't in the team. If anyone sort of quite remembers back to the very start, he wasn't quite in the squad. It was Cody Gakpo who was the first choice striker. And then along came the Newcastle game and he came on and scored 2 absolute worldies, finishing right up there with your anyone you can name, Michael Owen, all the one world-class finishers. It was right up there. And I thought at that moment, he's done it. It's clicked. Something's clicked with him. Something's worked with him. And then he had a relatively, decent sort of go through with the season. He's won us a few points. The goal he scored against Nottingham Forest when no one was creating chances, which was really, really important. I feel Nunez has also, unfortunately, been a bit of a victim at times of sort of he misses chances, absolutely, but he misses chances that he's created, and I don't think other players were capable of getting into the positions that he was. So it's sort of being like a victim of your own success, and he's doing all the hard work. The hard work is being available and being in a position to score a goal. The easier bit is the finishing. The finishing can be taught. You can teach, finishing. And we've heard it, Michael Owen, we've heard Daniel Sturridge when they say you need to work on, free finishes that, they're your trademark and get really good at them. And that's the bit that he needs to bring into his game. He needs to bring in that when I'm in this situation, this is what I'm going to do. The one that really hurt for me was the chance he had against Everton where I'm screaming at the TV, put it across the goalkeeper, and instead he holds down circle and just blasts it straight at the goalkeeper. And honestly, it was palpable, my frustration, because it's so unnecessary. It was so unnecessary. It was such a simple situation that all he had to do was put it across. And instead, he's got to learn that bit of him. Definitely don't sell him, because ultimately, who are we going to replace him with is the question, and how much would that person cost? Darwin Nunez's numbers this year have been pretty good. They've been up there with, quite a number of players who are having great seasons. But unfortunately, he's only being remembered for the things that he hasn't done. However, there's several players this season who have also failed to finish well for us. Mo Salah has failed to finish on multiple occasions, and so has Luis Diaz. So it would be unfair to solely pick out Darwin Nunez to be the scapegoat as to maybe why our season hasn't turned out the way it has, because I think the system relies on the team doing well as opposed to just one individual.
One slight difference, though, if I may, between Darwin and Bobby Firmino. I get the comparison, but Bobby Firmino does not miss sitters in the box. He doesn't score at the goals, but he doesn't miss sitters. He's not going to blast the ball at the goalkeeper. He has that composure where he just, with this like a flick, So just to put that in there, Bobby Firmino doesn't score at the goals, but when he gets his opportunity, usually he puts them away. Just needed to get that in.
Yeah, and as I say, I mean, there's a compilation of some misses that Firmino's got here, and they're rare because, to be honest with you, he didn't have anywhere near the number of chances that Darwin Nunez ever actually had. To be honest, so he was a better finisher, absolutely. I still think Darwin Nunez has got the ability to add that to his game. I believe that can be taught, because he's shown me he can do that. The 2 goals he scored against Newcastle were not a fluke. They weren't like off his shin. They were very well finished strikes. It's just getting somebody, whether it's a psychologist or a striker or a coach or somebody, to be able to just to get that message, just to get it through to him, just to get him to develop that little bit more as a mature striker, because it comes across as an immaturity rather than being somebody who's just like, right, I'm here now. My job is to aim for a part of the goal, not just hit it as hard as I possibly can.
Get Luis Suarez on the coaching staff.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, there was another fella who we all remember had a bit of difficulty finishing at one point. So it can be taught. It certainly can be taught. So, we look back and perhaps on another season, another day, Darwin Nunez is, against Newcastle at home when we played them at Anfield. I mean, Dubravka just pulled out worldy saves. I don't know what Nunez could have done on that day to score. And then Cody Gakpo comes in. He comes in off the bottom of his foot and it went in. And it was just like, what can you do here? Like, I just thought this poor fella must be sat there on the bench going like, I don't know what I can do, But yeah, I'm not overly concerned, and I'm with you. I don't think that we would get the fee for him, and also I just think it's too early. He's got a 6-year deal, and
he's got 24.
Yeah, 24. I mean, some strikers. Look at Ollie Watkins. I mean, everyone thinks he's brilliant, and Ollie Watkins has taken a fair few years to get to this point. So it's not always that they turn out to be an Erling Haaland or somebody who develops much earlier in their career. Maybe it'll just take a bit longer, and we just have to show a bit of patience. And I'm not that worried. I still think there's a really, really good player in there, and it just takes a couple of things to go right for him, and his numbers would explode.
Yeah, I think another thing that you can bring into this is the fact that he's hit the post 12 times, I think, this season in the Prem. Like, that's just unreal, considering that the second player in that standing, or whatever you want to call it, is on 4 or 5. So he's been unlucky as well. We'll give him that as well. So yeah, I think I've seen a stat the other day. He basically his minutes played over the last 2 seasons basically accumulate to around 59 matches of full 90 minutes. And in that time, he's had 50 goal involvements. So 50 goals and assists in 59, which just doesn't sound bad at all. It sounds really good, to be honest. It's just the fact that I think he's gotten all this attention when he signed because Holland signed at the same time, and people expected him to have the same impact when it was obvious from the start it was not going to be the case. Holland came in with a lot of Champions League experience, with a father who's been a Premier League player, obviously, which also plays a part in this whole thing. And Darwin Nunez came from Uruguay 2 years earlier in Europe. So, things don't only work out that way for everyone. I think, as Dan said, the one thing that people need to do with Darwin on the training ground is basically put a leash on him, and the moment he's through on goal, stop him and say to him that he doesn't need to shoot, to just send that top bins and just slide it one way or the other. So hopefully he can improve his finishing. I'm not entirely sure now. I think we'd be, that's what I said, I think we'd be better off playing him on the left wing and he'd give us a lot more from there. But we're going to have to see. I think Matty said it on a stream a few days ago that he's the type of player that Edwards would have signed as well, mainly because he takes a lot of shots. So he gets involved a lot and he's really present in the offensive part of the game as well as the pressing. So I think time will tell, but I still have faith in Darwin, even though I absolutely did the same thing. And I basically, yelled at my TV when I saw that miss against Everton. And I just thought, yeah, fine, that's.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've just while me has cameras just is put on there. Just to answer one question, I think someone's just put through there is asking for the conversion rates. It depends on what you want. Last season, his conversion rate was incredible. Firmino's conversion rate, because he played very few games, was 35%, which is around about 15% normally higher than where you expect an elite striker's at about 20%. Firmino in the 1920 season, the one we won the Champions League, it was only at 15% conversion rate on shots. So that isn't great, so it's looking at the figures and looking at the numbers aren't always, it's, the one to kind of go with. Mihai, are you back now?
Hopefully I am, yeah.
You disappeared.
Sorry, I just kind of tend to do that. Girls used to say the same in high school. Okay, so thank you guys for hopping on the stream. Thanks a lot to Dan, to Tom, and Paul. Thanks to everyone who liked, subscribed, who left their comments. It's been a great evening for us here at LFC Transfer. We love to see people involved in the comments as much as you were tonight. So thank you very much for coming on. We'd love to see you in the next few days as well. So if you want to come back, 7:30 UK time, pretty much every day of the week. Different time after matches, but that's a given. Thanks to everyone. Thank you, Tanya, Tony, William, and everyone else who was involved in the chat. Steve as well. We'd love to have you on another occasion, hopefully when things settle and we're top of the league next season with Arne at the wheel. That was a poor choice of words, wasn't it? But I'm gonna end the stream anyway, so hopefully we won't get into any more of that. So, up the Reds. See you tomorrow.
See you guys.